Okay, all right, well, we'll get started today then. So today we're going to have a look at writing task 1. And we're going to start with an introduction to what it is, and then we're going to talk about line graphs and have a look at line graphs. Okay, now some people find that writing task 1 is a lot easier for them than task 2, mainly because it's very factual. It's all about data, reporting data, and you're mainly writing about what you can see, and everything is there for you. So it can be very, very clear. So once you know the structure, you should be able to, find it quite easy. And you would aim to do this in around 20 minutes in your exam, because you have 60 minutes for the whole writing test. Spend around 20 on writing task 1 and 40 on writing task 2. So let's have a look at, I don't want to start with that slide. Okay. This slide. So different types of charts. So there are 4 different types of charts you may have to describe. One is a line graph. You may have a bar chart, a pie chart, or a proportional bar chart. And there are some questions which even pair them together, where you may have a bar chart and a pie chart, and you have to write about both. So, but we'll have a look at that in another lesson. Oh, I've skipped, sorry. There's also other types of questions, including maps, process diagrams, and comparing 2 different charts. They require a slightly different approach, and we'll have a look at those in future lessons, so you will get to practice. When you get your chart, you need to ask yourself if it is a static or a dynamic chart. And a static chart shows data from one time period. A dynamic chart shows change over time, and they will require different tenses. So you need to be aware of your tense use. Okay. So let's see what the examiners expect. So task achievement. Now I think I did send you the writing task 1 criteria at the beginning. I'll send it again after today, where you can have a look at the criteria and what you need for a 7 or above. But the task achievement, it requires you to accurately reflect the information in the graph or the chart. And if you could give your answer to a stranger, would they accurately be able to reproduce it? If you read it out and you can picture it in your mind, then you fulfilled that task. Coherence and cohesion. So this part judges your ability to produce an answer that is clear, fluent, and easy to understand. The structure, using appropriate vocabulary and good grammar, help to boost your score. Good paragraphing and appropriate use of cohesive devices can also be used to gain a higher score. Do you understand what they mean when they say cohesive devices? Can anybody give me an example?
Like the trends?
No. Think about in your writing task 2 essays. How do you use cohesive devices? You will use them, but you maybe don't know that that's what they are called.
Are these like examples, like in addition to?
Yes, yes. So in addition to, however, firstly, secondly, anything like that. They're your cohesive, your linking words, they're your cohesive devices. So it's important to use them in writing task 1 as well, okay? Lexical resource. So that section is all about vocabulary. It's not about inserting as many long words as you can think of, but about choosing relevant, appropriate, and accurate words. You will help your score by using a variety of vocabulary and not just copying words in a question. Grammatical range and accuracy. Obviously, you have to produce grammatically accurate sentences to do well in both the writing tasks, but you also need the appropriate structure. You will be expected to use different structures for describing numbers, trends, and making comparisons. The most common grammar mistake students make is not using articles and plurals properly. If at least 50% of your sentences are not grammatically correct, it's hard to score over a band 7. Now, from seeing your task 2s, I would think that this isn't such a problem for most of you, because the work from writing task 2 has proven that most of you have a great grasp of grammar and spelling. Okay. So the structure. So this is the structure that I would advise you to use. 4 paragraphs. Okay. Paragraph 1, your introduction. All you have to do here is paraphrase the question. Paragraph 2 is the overview. And this is where you give a general overview of what's happening in the graph or the chart or whatever you have. You can list a couple of main features that you can see, but it is just a general overview. Paragraph 3 is where you go into the specific details. So you give supporting details, but they have to be specific. So this is where you mention any percentages, any monetary values, any numbers. This is where you bring in the data. And the same for paragraph 4. Any supporting details, and you can make comparisons if you can see any. So all the specifics are here. Okay, let me see. So let's say in more detail. We're going to have a look at an example. So an example, the chart below gives information on the percentage of British people giving money to charity by age range for the years 1990 and 2010. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So I want you all to take a good look at this bar chart. We have percentages here. We've got the age range. We've got 1990 in yellow and 2010 in blue. So have a look at it. What stands out to you as being the first main feature that you can see? What would you say is a key feature?
It compares two periods, 2 time periods, 1990 and 2010.
Yes, but what stands out, like if I was going to report a main feature, I would say that in 1990, people aged between 36 and 50 donated the most money to charity. So that's the main thing that I can see because it's the highest. So it stands out as being a main feature. What else could you see? Is there a low? That's a high. What about the lows? What about the low for 1990?
It is 18 to 25.
18 to 25.
Yeah. And what about in 2010?
It's also
The same.
Yeah, so it's very low in 2010 for that age group. What about the highest in 2010?
Ages
51 to 65.
Yeah, so you can see how it's changed over the years. And in the last few years, 2010, it looks as though the older age groups are donating more money than the younger age groups. So let's have a look at the model answer and see how they've answered this question. So paragraph 1 is just, they have paraphrased the question. So it says, the diagram shows the levels of charitable donations of people living in Britain separated by age between 1990 and 2010. Now the overview. Overall, there was a general decrease in the percentage of people who donated money to charity over the 2 time periods. However, the pattern differs between the 3 age groups before 50 and the 2 age groups after the age of 50. Now they go into the specifics and they put in the percentages. The highest decrease is in the 18 to 25 category, which saw a decrease of 10% from 17% in 1990 to 7% in 2010. 42% of people in the 36 to 50 age group gave to charity in 1990, the highest on the chart, and this fell to 35% in 2010. There was also a significant decline in donations among 26 to 35-year-olds from 31% to 24%. The exception to this general trend downwards was among the 51 to 65 and over 65s. In 2010, the 51 to 65-year-olds gave the highest percentage with nearly 40%, and this rose from 35% in 1990. Finally, those over 65 displayed a slight percentage increase of 3%. So they've given lots of information here, and they've given the specific details, and that's what you need in these 2 supporting paragraphs. In the overview question, in the overview paragraph, sorry, you need to have an overview paragraph. You can't get a 7 or above if you leave this out. So I would say to always start that with overall, the overall, and then go into what you can see. Any questions about that?
Is there a conclusion for writing task 1, Miss Louise?
No, you don't need a conclusion for this one. Some people put them in and they say to sum up, and then they give a general, but you don't need to. If you had this type of structure, that would be fine. Sometimes in the maps question, some people add on like a small conclusion, but sometimes that's to kind of bump up their word count, because depending on the question, if your word count is say 120, 130 words, you could possibly add a conclusion to kind of buffer it out a little bit. But with the charts and the line graph, you wouldn't really need to do that because you'll have lots of data to talk